This was a routine transaction to purchase a routine type of ammunition that is available in many different retail outlets throughout the state of Arizona. After that transaction, Doug had absolutely no further contact with Mr. Paddock. They basically had one transaction and one transaction only. To the best of our knowledge, none of the ammunition that Doug sold to Mr. Paddock was used at all in the tragedy that occurred in Las Vegas. Doug was then contacted by both ATF and the FBI approximately 11 hours after the Las Vegas massacre. Doug was questioned about selling ammunition to Mr. Paddock. Doug was fully cooperative then. He spoke with authorities without any hesitation. He answered all of their questions truthfully, and he actually offered some samples of the exact type of ammunition that he sold to Mr. Paddock. He spoke to the authorities on 4 separate occasions at their request. He answered all of their questions. He answered their questions truthfully and fully, and he remains to this day fully cooperative to discuss any aspect of his interaction with Mr. Paddock. The reason Doug opts to speak today to the press is basically just to protect his public reputation and to also ensure that the true facts come to light about this very, very limited and frankly irrelevant role in the tragedy that occurred in Las Vegas. Now, I will call on people for questions if you have questions of myself or Doug or Attorney Andrew Marcantel. So please raise your hand if you have questions. Okay, we got one over here. Please say who you are and who the question is addressed to.
Thank you, Mark. Steve Gregory, KFI, ABC News, Los Angeles. The question is for Doug. I'm curious if you saw the news reports about the shooting going on in Las Vegas, and if you, in your mind, had put together the fact that you had that interaction with him, or that you sold ammunition, the guy was being ID'd hours after the shooting. Did you put any kind of connection together on your own? Please step to the mic.
I didn't even know the shooting had gone on. I start work at 6 o'clock in the morning,
okay,
and I hadn't even seen the news. When I got the phone call, that's when I found out when I was talking to the federal agents.
And what was your initial reaction when you got that call from feds?
Revulsion, sickness, horrified that this man would do something like that. Probably one of the most horrible things I'd ever been told or heard of.
Did you feel at that point, did you feel like you could have been liable or responsible in any way, shape, or form for what happened?
No.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Question over here.
Jasmina Gonzalez with Univision Las Vegas, Nevada. My question is for you, sir. The amount of ammunition that you sold to Mr. Paddock, was it something like, because you sold like 700 ammunitions, correct?
720 rounds.
Okay, is that something common, like somebody to purchase that amount of ammunitions, or was it something strange for you?
Very common. Very common, yeah.
Okay, it wasn't something like requested, like custom made, or this, because I know on your page.
No. What he bought was surplus U.S. military tracer ammunition. 600 rounds, 7.62 NATO M62, manufactured by Lake City. 120 rounds, 5.56 M196, manufactured by Lake City in the original packaging.
Okay, lastly on my part, I know on your website says that you actually talk to your customers to place an order and also ask them for what they're going to use the ammunitions. Did you discuss that with Mr. Paddock?
Yes. He said that he was going to go out to the desert and put on a light show either with or for his friends. I can't remember whether he used the word with or for, but he said that he was going to go out and shoot it at night with friends.
Thank you. We got a question over here. Could you please state your name and who the question is for?
My name is Rachel Crosby. I'm with the Las Vegas Review-Journal, District of Las Vegas. When you had this transaction with Mr. Paddock, was this in person? And if so, can you describe his mannerisms? Was anything abnormal to you?
It was in person. He took my business card at the Phoenix Gun Show. He called me the Tuesday after the weekend. He called me the first time at work. I told him I couldn't talk to him, that I was at work. He called me back after 3 o'clock when I told him to, and he wanted my address, so I gave it to him. Then he got lost on the way in, so that was the third time I talked to him. He pulled up, very well dressed, very well groomed, very polite, very respectful, told me what he wanted. I gathered it up, put it in a box, told him what he owed me. He paid me, put it in his car, and drove away. At no time did I see anything suspicious or odd or any kind of a tell, anything that would set off an alarm.
And just for background, it's common for customers to come by your house to
No, it's not common at all. I have to trust them. Maybe once every 2 or 3 months.
And typical transactions happen, you said it's not common that they come.
Either at a gun show or I'll ship to them.
Next question over here.
Yeah, Julio Cisneros from Telemundo. When he came to buy the ammunition, was he by himself or
He was
someone
alone.
else?
He was alone.
Do we have any other question in the back over here? And then we'll go over here after that question.
Yeah, in general, I'm just curious how their life has changed after all of this has happened and you've been associated with this, if it has at all.
It's changed quite a bit since my name was released. I've had people pounding on my door, death threats, one woman screaming through my door that I should be killed and I should die. It's been not a lot of fun, quite frankly.
If you could say one thing to the public, what would it be, just about this whole situation?
I had no contribution to what Paddock did. I had no way to see into his mind. The product that I sold him had absolutely nothing to do with what he did. I'm a vendor, a merchant whose name was released, and
Okay, we'll go over here and then back over here and then over here.
Uriel Garcia with the Arizona Republic. My question is, and I may have missed this detail in the narrative, but was the ammunition also found in the room or just the box?
I don't know. I believe the box, I know the box was, but I don't know about the ammunition.
And how much did he pay you for that?
I don't remember, to be
Was
honest.
it hundreds, thousands,
Hundreds.
hundreds?
Yeah.
Next question over here, then back here, then I think you had a question. Okay.
Where?
You had said to your knowledge that the ammo was not used. Does that mean it was not fired?
It wasn't fired. Yeah, it's tracer ammunition. So basically, tracer has a magnesium flare in the base of it. So when it leaves the barrel, it puts approximately a 1 foot long red flame out the base. So you can see where it's coming from and where it's going to.
Over here.
My name is Wagner. I'm an independent journalist. My question
Could you speak up a little bit?
Yes, independent journalist. My question is for Mr. Haig. Has the MGM staff or any legal representation from MGM reached out to you or your?
No, not at all.
Okay, question over here.
So, how do you guys know that this ammo wasn't used in the shooting? Did the
You would
authorities tell
have
that, or-
seen red streaks coming from the window.
And there weren't red streaks coming.
No.
From the window?
Yeah, it's probably important to say.
But the authorities didn't tell you that, right? Or did the authorities make that determination?
We haven't asked them any
All right,
questions.
all right.
They've only been asked. But I think it's important to note that it's probably a bad thing that the ammunition that Doug sold was not used. If that ammunition had been used, it would have been far easier to locate the direction of the shooter, where the rounds were coming from, and it would have been much easier for the people on the ground to actually effectively find cover. So his ammunition wasn't used, but as it turns out, it probably would have been less of a tragedy. Fewer people would have died had that tracer ammunition been used. All right, did we have a next up, or were you done?
I wanted to ask a follow-up. So
Okay.
you met him at the gun show.
I met him first at the Las Vegas gun show.
Uh-huh.
Can you start off the mic?
Met him. I didn't physically meet him at the Las Vegas gun show. Guy behind my table did. I did meet him at the Phoenix gun show where he took a business card because they didn't have the quantity of 7.62 tracer that he wanted. At that time, I got no bad feelings about him. The assessment was good. That's when I allowed him to call me to swing by my home.
All right, let's go to the Dodgers fan next.
Dave Montero, LA Times.
How did you find out about your name being released in the seal search warrants, and how did you feel and how did you react when you first realized your name was going public?
Shocked.
Step to the mics, please.
I was shocked that my name was the only one that was not redacted. It's focused all the attention on me. So.
How did you find out that? Were you like sitting at the breakfast table?
I was at work, and then my cell phone started to explode with phone calls. So.
You've already
Yes,
asked
I
a question.
have.
Someone who hasn't asked a question.
Danielle Fox.
Okay, Danielle.
Phoenix. So for somebody who doesn't know, what is this ammo used for? Like typically, if it wasn't.
Typically, it's used by the military to allow the gunner to guide his fire into a target. Civilians routinely use it as recreation.
And then second question, kind of what happens from here with you guys? Just kind of, is there any type of legal action in terms of your name being released or?
If the authorities have questions that they want to ask of Doug, then presumably they will contact me and I will set up a time to bring him in and they can ask some questions about anything involving his interactions with Mr. Paddock. And so that, other than that, I think that this is probably a story that's reached its end. Over here.
Following up on that, I mean, is there any legal recourse to take in terms of them releasing his name, not redacted?
You know, there could be legal recourse because probably somebody failed to redact his name, and that's caused some problems for Doug. But my understanding at this time is it's not something we're likely to pursue. It's just the kind of thing that happens in life, and he feels bad about it. It's something he wishes he could have prevented. But on the other hand, there are many people who interacted with Mr. Paddock in the days before this tragedy, and none of them were able to determine that this guy was just getting ready to do some horrible act. And so it's just too much to ask of Doug here to just be able to figure this out in what's otherwise a very routine transaction. Has anybody not asked a question yet who has a question? Back here.
How long total do you, I'm Melissa Lacey, ABC 15, how long total do you think you spoke to the FBI about this?
Probably about 6, 7, 8 hours altogether, over 4 different occasions.
Any other questions from anybody who hasn't asked? Over here.
Maria Sheva with Free TV and Channel 5. You talked a little bit about the threats that you've been getting. Can you go into detail? I mean, you said people have been knocking on your doors. Do you hope that today really
Yes, I hope today ends that. When people realize that I wasn't in collusion with Paddock, that I was not in any way, shape, or form associated with the horrible crime that he committed.
And how does that make you feel
Step up.
living day to day? I mean, are you?
I'm sorry, what?
How does that make you feel living day to day that you're getting these death threats? What kind of threats are you?
I've had death threats, yes. It makes me feel horrible that people need to do their research and think rather than just react viscerally.
All right, so we'll start over here, then we'll make one trip across, and then that'll be the end of the press conference. So if you have questions along the way, raise your hand.
So
Please.
this is this was a side job, right?
It's a hobby.
Yeah,
It's a hobby.
Please,
Are you?
I'm sorry, please.
It's a hobby.
Okay, so what do you do for a living? Are you, and
I'm an engineer.
What sort of engineer?
Aerospace.
Okay, and are you still selling ammo or?
No. I've stepped back from that.
Okay, any questions? Okay, over
Do you
here.
think you'll want to ever get back into selling ammunition or weapons or anything like that?
I don't sell weapons. At this time, I don't know. I truly don't know.
Any other questions move in this direction? Nothing, over here.
Are you taking any legal action on anyone?
No, I don't know who I could go after for anything, and why would I?
Any other question over here?
Could you please explain for the viewers that, that there's not a license needed to buy or sell this ammunition?
In the state of Arizona, it's perfectly legal to own, sell, and possess and fire tracer ammunition. There is no federal or state license required to transfer ammunition.
So long as the person is not a prohibited possessor legally, and Doug certainly wasn't and had no reason to believe Mr. Paddock was. Okay, go in this direction.
Okay, in a previous press conference, Sheriff Lombardo said that they're going to commit an arrest in 60 days. And that was one of the reasons that they didn't want to release these documents. And in the end, a judge approved to release these documents, and your name was in the documents. Do you think, or have they approached to you in regards of this? Have they made any type of contact with you, or have it crossed your mind that maybe you could be that possible person?
No, I don't think it's me at all.
Any questions?
I have a
Going.
question.
All right, one more over
Have you
here.
been sued in any way over this, or?
Have I what?
Have any lawsuits been filed against you in any way over
No.
this? Any of the victims,
No.
anything? No.
Any questions going this direction? Let's go over here.
I do just want to clarify, you said the transaction was common, but then you said that it wasn't common for people to come to your house to pick up whatever they were buying. Can you clarify whether the amount of ammo sold to Paddock was that common?
Yes, that was, yeah. Nothing abnormal.
Question.
Mark, for you, I've been seeing conflicting reports. Is your client still a person of interest?
You know, that's not a decision that I make. That's a function of whether ATF or FBI decides they're a person of interest. They could keep him as a person of interest for the rest of his life. It doesn't affect what we do.
Sure, but have you been told one way or another?
No, and that would be fairly uncommon for law enforcement to call me and say, "Hey, Mark, I just want to let you know a client who previously was of interest is now no longer of interest." If that happened, that'd probably be the first time it ever happened. All right, I want to thank you all for coming. I really appreciate it, and that will end our press conference today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, you want to head in? Sure. Thanks, guys. What's up, man? How you doing? Sure.